Well, went to church tonight. Same church my son goes to is the same one I used to go to about 6 years ago, 6.5 years ago. Yeah, about six. Well, it's a good message tonight. It was based out of Genesis 49. Um, it had something to do where the tribe of Judah became ruler as kings based on what Judah did concerning Tamar, his birthright, as opposed to Joseph getting the birthright and Judah getting the blessing, I think. And so that was really interesting, I had to say. I got me some of these from the turkey bites from the Dollar General. 1 gram of sugar, probably less than 1 gram of sugar. 2% iron. Let's see here. 1.5 grams of saturated fat, 25 milligrams of cholesterol, which is not bad, 310 milligrams of sodium, which is, of course, less than 1/3 of a percent, 33% of a gram, close or below, actually. So that seems pretty good. Anyway, back to what I was saying. 7 grams of protein, 80 calories, less than a gram of sugar, gluten free. Anyway, back to what I was saying. So I might have related on here several times my issue with that church back over 6 years ago, based on some situations where I made a video and they thought I was putting down the church, or the elder there thought I was putting down the church, and I wasn't. I was putting down the church, and he just took it the wrong way. He got all huffy about it. So anyway, I was like, okay, well, I don't want to be a part of it. So I mean, that's the way y'all feel. God bless. I'm just going to go ahead and leave, me and my son. And so eventually, a few years later, I came back once or twice because my son was wanting to go there. Hello, Fatima, how are you? And so I just came back like once or twice because my son was going there, and then couple of years later, I just started going back more because my son started going more often, became a member, him as a girlfriend. Um, so really, his membership really never ceased. It was just I kind of like, no, I don't want to be a member anymore. And why I actually wanted to become a member, I can't remember why. Just now looking back, hindsight 2020, I'm like, man, I shouldn't have done that. But anyway, we were there tonight, and I thought my son was going to bring a message. Well, it's pretty awkward for Tanika. I'm getting to it. I thought my son was going to be preaching the message tonight, and so he didn't. I'm like, oh, I thought he was going to do it. That's why I came. That's why I usually go more often, because my son comes up with something. There's a couple times where I just wanted to hear what the pastor had to say, because we worked together at the same place. I was a security guard, and he was a guy who worked in the milk line, stuff like that. But anyway, long story short, it was just really awkward because after the service, I mean, ew, that's my son. Sorry. There's a certain person on the road that we live on before it comes to the town road or city road. It's a county road, and then it comes to city road. Um, there's somebody going around acting crazy, acting a fool. And so my son was letting me know about that. He let me know about it earlier, but I didn't. He asked me if I got home early. I'm like, what? Why? I guess his work. I like, and then he call again. I'm like, oh well, that dude, yeah. So I didn't really think too much of it. I'm not so much worried about my house because there's other houses he could be going to. There was supposed to be some kind of roadblock and stuff, and helicopter or whatever flying around. But anyway, it just kind of felt awkward tonight because it's just that I've been going back there for quite a while there, off and on, and whereas before I was pretty talkative with certain people, but I'm this kind of guy, a nice kind of guy. No, whenever somebody talks to me, their attention span kind of drifts off to something else at times with me. Don't know why. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it don't. There's some people who really, really act like they want to listen to what I have to say. Other people just like, oh, and then they're off. So I was kind of concerned because, in a way, I guess I was over concerned because the pastor kind of did that, and I was trying to talk to him, and his attention span went somewhere else. And it actually went to my son. Everybody there, and it's not to sound like I'm jealous of my son, because I'm not. I'm very proud of my son. Very proud that everybody likes him. They think a lot of him, and him and his girlfriend. She's a really sweet girl, and I'm happy about that. I'm really proud of my son on that. And but anyway, but it just seems like except this, except that. It seems like I kind of forget sometimes that I'm the one that raised him. And it's not like, again, it's not that I'm jealous of my son, because I'm not. And it's not that I want the attention. But it's just that sometimes when I try to talk to somebody and my son's next to me, the first thing they do is divert and go to him. It's like they don't want to talk to me. And as far as the hospitality of going back to a church and everything, you think people, the first impression that people make, get or should get about a church is their hospitality. And so I haven't really, concerning that, I haven't really got any people say, hey, how you doing? Welcome to our church. Something like that, blah, 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 blah. And it's not that I got an opportunity to say, oh, well, I've been here before. I used to come here. I used to be a member here. I didn't have a chance to really actually. Well, I hope I'm all right. I don't know you, Oreo. So I can't really say whether I don't look well, whether I look well. I have no idea. But anyway, it just gets disappointing sometimes whenever people shift their attention span. When you try to talk to somebody, try to have a conversation with them, that's like that always mostly happens to me anyway. Because I guess people see me differently as a person that's not authoritative as they are, or something. I don't know. That I'm not much of a big shot. Some big shots, they just act like, and some people can't help but do it. Some people just do that because that's just who they are. And the pastor of the church, sometimes he does that. And I seen when I was working at the same place that he was, I was a security guard, and he was doing something on the milk line. He had a very short attention span. And whenever he wanted to show you something about himself, that was easy. But when he wanted to listen to you say something like, oh, yeah, he got somewhere else. But anyway, I'm very glad people like my son, and like a lot of them, I'm glad that they enjoy his preaching, whatever. If you look on my website, on my not website, but on my playlist, you see church stuff, and where he's preached a couple times, and he's supposed to be doing it this coming June, the last week of June. So like, okay, well I didn't know that. So I'll just go at that time. But I just, like I told him, I was wanting the pastor, I was wanting to say something, bring something up, but I kind of withdrew it because I didn't feel very comfortable. I just didn't feel very comfortable around people there. And he didn't really go into detail. He said, oh, what are we doing to make it, what can we do to make you feel okay about sharing your testimony or something like that? No, he didn't do all that or say all that, so I wasn't going to put it out as to, I didn't want to be accommodated in that way. And so I didn't want that to make my son feel uncomfortable, but to feel like he might be embarrassed or whatever. But anyway, it's just that I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. But when you go to certain churches, like I say, you have people that kind of go out of their way and talk to you, and there are some people there that don't even know me. Whenever I was going there, they weren't even there. So, but it's about, you hear they're like, oh, it's a nice church, it's this, that, and the other. But even the people that are there, like, they don't go out their way to really say, hey, how you doing? To come to you. Well, I mean, I've had the lady, one of the elders there. She came and said hello to me a couple of times before. And anyway, I don't know. It's just this time around, and that's not like I'm trying to. Like I said, it's not like I'm trying to, like, oh, you got to say hello to me or something like that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's just the elephant in the room kind of thing, you know, from something that happened 6 years ago. And so, even though that's done and gone with, and like the other week, I was talking to the deacon there. His son preaches there. He's a young fella, and so does my son. And they're friends. And I asked him about giving Bibles, and he acted like he didn't really want to talk about it too much, you know. And he just kind of diverted. And so I'm like, oh, okay, all right. Because I had quite a few Thompson Chain Reference Bibles that I wanted to bring and everything to see if anybody wanted to put them up in the library. But he, like, he didn't want to talk too much, and he's kind of like that anyway. He's kind of awkward like himself. But once I've seen him talk to people, and once he has their attention, they like to talk to him, and once they have his attention, he likes to talk. But he acted like he didn't want to talk to me very much. Maybe it's what I'm reading, maybe it's my what I'm picking up, maybe I'm in the wrong. I don't know. Um, I have no idea. But all I know is that, and I told my son this here about 20 minutes ago. I said, I don't mind going there and watching you preach, son, but it doesn't feel like it used to feel. It just feels awkward, even with people who don't even know me, um, who weren't even there when I was going there. Whenever we were going there, I said it just feels like nobody's really outgoing, shaking hands, except for this one older man. And I go to him every time I see him. Hey there, Doug, how you doing? Shake his hand and everything, and he's very receptive. He's very outgoing, and I shake his hand and everything. And so, and then other than that, though, those who seem to have been there for quite a while, they don't come to me or talk to me or whatever else, And I'm one guy out of one guy, the a young person's father, and they're just all over Seth. And like I said, it's fine. I'm glad they like him. I'm glad they adore him. But I think my son is, just my opinion. It's just my opinion. He's really into their attention over him. He likes the attention, I think. And he tries to remain modest about it, and that's good. But it just seems like he loves what they feel about him and everything. Um, and people have had there are a lot of people out there who really admire my son, who like my son, and I, like I said, I'm so glad about that. Because that's the way I try to raise him up to be, is somebody who's outgoing and loves other people. But at the same time, I've always told him, I'm like, just be careful, because the attention that people give you, and you just make sure you don't redirect and do something where they want something of you that's not really who you are. And I said, like, with the pastor wanting you to get out there and preach on something other, and then trying to give you advice when you feel like you messed up, and it just kind of gets you in the office and talks to you. Just make sure, I'm like, just make sure it's coming from your heart. that you don't need another man to tell you how to preach, how to bring God's word, how to bring the message. You don't need another man's opinion. You need God's. You need the Holy Spirit to guide you in these things, not another man, not other people. I said, not even me. But that's what I tried to do whenever my son was young. I tried to raise him up to be a godly, God-fearing person. And it just seems like, in a way, he kind of craves that attention that people give him because, he's an outgoing kind of fella. And I don't want to make it seem like it's about me because, like I said, it's not. You know, I'm very blessed to have a son like him, and he makes my heart very happy. Um, and the things that he does, and the things that he's learned, and how he loves the Lord. And but another thing too is that there's a little bit of traditionalism there, and I kind of tell them, I said, you gotta watch out for that because they like to go to the altar and everybody prays one a prayer they want to pray, and then you got one person who's kind of leading prayer, and then you got other people talking in their prayers, and I'm like, you don't have to go to an altar and lean down on your knees or whatever, you get down on your knees, but there's a tradition that people do that. I think that some people put a focus and an emphasis on an altar. There's not really an altar there, but there's the pulpit, and there's this railing that's up there, and people go there and get on their knees on these little step things. And so it just seems very, I don't want to say the wrong word, but almost works based kind of thing. And my son, he doesn't go up there and do that. He stays there with his girlfriend. They sit in the second to the back pew there, and and I go up behind them sometime, and I sit behind them, and I kind of pray too, But sometimes it's hard for me to pray because I got one person who's praying I can hear the most, and several other people are praying too, and I can hear them, and it gets really confusing, and I can't focus. If you have one person that's praying, that's great, but then you got several others. It's kind of hard, So, and my son realizes this, and he knows it, and I'm like, well, that's what I kind of find a little awkward about it, and he knows some of these things. He knows that he says that they're growing and everything, and I'm like, well, I don't really see that, but okay. And like I said, that they don't really go out of the way to talk to me, most of them, and I don't really go out of my way to talk to them. Maybe I should be more receptive of them than they of me. But at the same time, too, I think a congregation, more or less, is really identified of how hospitable they are. So sometimes you can go to these churches and they might have all the wrong doctrine. You can go to a Jehovah's Witness church. You can go to Church of Christ, Church of God, or whatever else. Methodist church, Presbyterian church. Now, Presbyterian churches, I have to say, some of them are really, really quiet. But there are other churches that are like, hey, hello there, brother. Welcome to this church or that church. We'd love to have you again, or what can we do to make you feel more comfortable, or something like that. They're really outgoing, but not so much my son's church. Let me just put it that way. They're really friendly and nice, but they're not to that point where they're kind of withdrawn a bit. And that seems like it's a little bit more so with me because I was once a member there, and I left there because of a little bit of a division and an opinion of the older gentleman that was there as an elder. As far as I know, all that's done and gone with and behind us, and everything. But it's still a little bit of, I feel in a way there might be still a little bit of animosity there because it just, nobody really comes and says, hey man, what's going on, Butch? How's it going? And I just feel like I can kind of look at people and just tell them just by, well, so and so might have said something to them when I used to come 6 years ago, And some of them I can go over to, I can shake the hand, and they, hey, how's it going? Yeah. And then they just kind of act like they don't want to talk no more. You know, I can be nice to them, but it's just like their attention span is like, okay, yeah, well, okay, something like that. And then there's an older lady that goes there, and she goes out of her way to talk to me. She goes, oh, I just love Seth. Seth is like preaching. He's such a great kid, young man, and whatever, loves the Lord. We love him. I'm glad you do. Thank you for that. And I say thank you for that because I'm his dad, and that's something I wanted for my son from the very beginning, to preach the Word of God. You know, it's not something that I feel like he needs to do or has to do, but all of us are preachers in some fashion or form. You know, even though not everybody's a pastor or some kind of minister or whatever. We minister in a way, but we're not, you know, pastors or whatever, leading a flock or congregation, what have you. And I just kind of want my son to watch out for certain things where men with their own personal doctrine or what have you want to lead him to kind of conform him to their way of thinking. I don't think that's with the pastor of that church, but once opportunity comes, certain opportunities comes, and eventually when he's like ordained by that church or whatever, um, that could possibly happen. I'm not sure, but I think that can happen anywhere. But anyway, it's just that I kind of tell us like you got to watch out for these certain things. And it's like sometimes he don't want to. It's like he hears me, but he's not really listening. You know what I mean? He just like disregards it. I'm like, okay, whatever, disregard it. But I know he loves me. I know he wants to. He likes my opinion at times, but a lot of times he just kind of like, well, Dad, or this, that, the other. Well, maybe it's not like that. I don't think it's like that at all. It's like I think it is, son. But anyway, I don't know. Maybe, like I said, maybe it's just me. Maybe it's my awkwardness. Maybe it's all my fault. But I did like the message he had to preach. The pastor, Terry preached a thing about the scepter of Judah and about how Judah's line became kings and how that 10 generations because of what Tamar did with Judah, that 10th generation, how Saul became king, a Benjaminite, smallest tribe in Israel, because as you remember, they were wiped out because of their sin. And then eventually David became king because he was a 10th generation from Pharez, or was it Judah? So he was Judah's 7th great grandson. So, and that's the 7 in there. So see that in the 10 generations, 7th great grandson. And so anyway, it's interesting how he was preaching on how Judah, the line of Judah through David became king, and how Jonathan didn't argue with it or fight it because Jonathan understood and knew that Judah was to have the scepter to rule as king. And so anyway, how Joseph tested his brethren, whenever they come to buy corn and things of that nature, how that Judah was outgoing and wanted to be there with Benjamin whenever they found the cup and the sack and stuff like that. You can read that in Genesis chapter 44. But anyway, neither here nor there. Maybe I should find another church to go to whenever my son's not preaching. I'm not sure which one I can go to on Wednesday nights. Some of them might be formal. I don't know. I would love to really personally, I would like to have a church that just meets in like in a parking lot like this right here. We can just meet and we can talk. You know what I mean? And give God the praise. Or some at a place or at the community center or something like that. It doesn't have to be in a building. It doesn't have to be on the side of the road. It can be in like a community center or something like that. And you just where everybody that says, "Well, we're not the Church of Baptist. We're not this. We're not that." Everybody just comes because they want to know more about the Lord and want to share God's grace in their lives. You know what He's done for us, who Jesus Christ is to them, because of His shed blood. Not and so when you meet and everything, you shake each other's hand and you care about one another, and you don't have this feeling of all that. Well, what do they think about me? Or what do I think about them? And it just like I said, it just kind of feels really awkward for me. You going back there, but I go there because I want to hear what my son has to say, and so like I said, as a father, I'm very proud. I don't know. Have any of you ever got that feeling where this ain't the church for me? This church might not be what is best for me, or this church. Oh, I love this church. I love how Pastor so and so preaches this, that, and the other. When you get too involved in a church and want to hear what a pastor has to say, I think really you're not doing yourself a good service, because you're not. It seems like you really want to hear the person and not the Lord. You want to hear the pastor and not what the Lord is saying. And but it just depends on that situation. It depends on what they're preaching. You know. But anyway, that's all I can really say on that. I feel like I got a flapper over my nose, a flappy booger. But anyway, yeah, I just kind of felt really awkward tonight. The situation felt awkward, but that's not the only time I felt that way. Every time I go there, I kind of feel awkward. Um, I feel like people being awkward toward me. I might be awkward toward them. Usually, when somebody sees a big, tall guy my size and they see my face, they think I'm mad about everything. I mean, but that's just the way I look. I look like this. Heck, my son's even got my looks. He looks like that sometimes too. I mean, but he's always smiling at people and kind of, glad-handed, and everybody adores him. Everybody loves him, and that's great. But I'm the one that raised him. I raised him to be that way, pretty much. But I didn't raise him to be that. I didn't raise him to be who he is now. I influenced him because I wanted him to be a godly man who loves the Lord. And I messed up at times and places, but I feel like I did the best I can do as a father could do, who is being guided by the Lord. And I always told him, I said, son, I'm like, I'm going to mess up, but you just need to know that the Lord loves you. And I learn things, and whatever I might learn, I'll try to share it with you as a father, and you can share things with me as a son. I said, eventually, one day, you're going to be a dad, and you can do the same thing. And I've always told him that when he was little, especially when we're going to that church. And I just hope and pray that those things took root in his heart and his life, and it's all I can do is hope. And so sometimes when I say those kind of things, I just this and that with Dad, maybe just this, maybe. And I think with son, sometimes you just liking all that attention they give you, you know. But at the same time too, I'm like, well, maybe it is, but what if it's not? You know, I don't expect him to say anything and to stop treating my dad like that kind of thing. I don't expect that, but I do want to, if I feel like I can't, you know, kind of go out. Like I said, I've tried with several of them there, and they act like they just don't want to talk. And I tried to kind of be a little outgoing with them, and they kind of shut down. And I'm like, what did I do? What did I say? But I'm like, okay, I'm not going to try anymore. So we did the little thing where everybody was praying and all that stuff, and everybody was praying this, or praying that, or praying that, and it's like all this praying at one time, and I'm like, I'm trying to focus and trying to listen, And then after that was done, I told him, I patted my son on the shoulder, so I'm going to go to the house. And we had somebody, like I said, was out here supposedly on the road somewhere or another, acting the fool, doing something stupid, and the law was looking for him. And he called several times wanting to know if I was home. And I told him I'm going to go ahead and go home. And he kept trying to call me to see if I made it home okay. So anyway, so that's nice. So anyway, I guess I am going to go home for sure now. And do something with my clothes, getting ready for tomorrow night because I got to go to work. Go back to work. I don't know if I'm going to shave this off or what. But anyway, if anybody's ever felt awkward at a church and kind of felt like what I'm talking about, how about share? Put it down there in the comments below. I appreciate it. And maybe you can kind of help me and talk some sense into me. And like I said, maybe it's me. Maybe it's them. Maybe it's both. I don't know. But I just kind of feel like nobody really wants to have any kind of discussion. Attention spans, most everybody there, except for a couple, their attention spans really short. And the same people that go there, that talk to me and seem like they have an interest in me, they're the same people that kind of leave there a little early. And, just they pretty much, I'm the only one that talks to them, or they talk to some people, but I talk to them and they talk to me, and then they're gone. So maybe I'm not the only one that feels that way. But anyway, some of them they act snobby and a little stuck up. Maybe just my judgmentalness. I don't know. I shouldn't say that. Maybe. But anyway, maybe. All right. Well, y'all take care, and I hope you have a great evening. It's really nice out here. And let's take a look at the trains. Look at there. And Depot building is really bad shape. They ain't fixed that yet. That little slat missing right there. Right there. Right there. Right there. Like a little bit of rot right up there too. Oh, anyway. Again. Okay, I have a nice evening. And if this seems kind of negative, I'm sorry it seems that kind of way. And I don't know, I just kind of felt maybe I should share that. And maybe somebody else feels that way too. With the church they go to or visit. All right, well, y'all take care. We'll see you and God bless.